To the City of Bloomfield Hills Zoning Board of Appeals meeting for June 16th. Let's begin by reciting the Pledge of Allegiance. I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. Okay, the first item on the agenda is the approval of the minutes. Do we have any comments, changes, modifications? Do I have a second?
Second.
All in favor?
Aye.
Any opposed? Okay, passes.
Mr. Chairman, before we begin, I've been asked to give a brief announcement.
Okay.
As you can see, the ZBA does not have full membership today. There is a quorum and the agenda can proceed. However, if you believe or you want your item to be heard in front of the full board, the board can consider tabling your agenda item until next month. So that is an option that is available to you. You must decide before your agenda item is heard. All right. Thank you, Mr. Chairman.
Thank you. So we'll proceed. The first item on the agenda is the board will consider the request from the property owner at 63 Scenic Oaks Drive for setback variances for a rear yard pool and side yard pool equipment.
Good evening, everyone. My name is Ian Hogue. I'm with Giffords Webster. We also have Eric Peach here. Parking lot was a little full, so I had to find some parking. Eric, do you want me to do this one, or do you want to? Okay. So we'll get going. So the first item is 63 Scenic Oaks Drive regarding setbacks for the proposed pool and pool equipment. So the zoning is A6, one-family attached units. Typically, this zone is for attached units, but for this site, it is a one-dwelling unit. And the request is for approval of a pool and pool equipment in the required setbacks. Here's an aerial. This just provides an overview of the overall subdivision. So the two items, again, are for to allow the pool to encroach into the 100-foot rear yard setback, and then for the pool equipment to encroach into the 40-foot side yard setback. Typically, in the A6 zoning district, the space between any unit in a cluster and a budding existing recorded subdivision zoned as one family residential district shall be equal to at least 100 feet. So that rear yard backs up to the a site in the A1 residential district, so that's why that 100-foot setback applies. So here is the yard map. So the pool is, again, in the rear yard, but also the required 100-foot setback. And then just on the south side of the site is where the pool equipment will be located. Just a closer look at the proposal. So again, that pink line is the 100-foot setback. There you have the proposed pool. And then just below here is the 40-foot setback, which is where the pool equipment will be located. So the existing home is set back right at the 100-foot setback. So anything proposed would result in a variance being requested. And just one thing to note, the proposed plan did receive approval from the Scenic Oaks HOA. So a comparable setback to the A1 zoning district, which requires 60 feet on the left there in the green. And if we had 60 feet, just for comparison, the pool would most likely meet that. Just slightly meeting that with 61 feet. Here we have the landscape plan, which shows the proposed screening. So there's a bunch of different trees to be planted on site, as well as a boxwood hedge to help screen the pool fence. And then on the left side of the screen here, in the yellow is your pool equipment, which will be screened by a 40-inch yew hedge. So the other variance is the pool equipment location. Again, that's in the 40-foot required side yard setback. So similar to the 100-foot setback, the boundary line at any point of any cluster will be 40 feet, and that's just provided by the ordinance for A6 districts. So that's it for our presentation. I'd be happy to answer any questions. Otherwise, we can turn it over to Leah and HRC.
Can you put the overhead one on, where the closest neighbor is behind him?
This
How
one?
far the house is? Yeah, that's the setback. Where's the house at?
The, in the A1 district,
Yes,
I don't know if we have the exact distance, but it's, yeah, we can go to the aerial and that might
There
show
we
a better
are.
view.
okay.
So this is the site, and this would be the home, so,
That's right there.
Yeah.
They're fairly close to the, well, it's 60, probably 60 feet from the property line to the structure,
yes, if we were,
if I had to guess.
yeah, if you had to assume it would be built to meet the setbacks, correct?
Right.
So then you have that, and then the existing house for 63 Scenic Oaks is 100 feet from that
Right.
property line, so you're looking at roughly 160 feet from house to house.
Yeah, that's not too bad. Okay, we're not right on top of it.
Mhm.
Unusually large property for that area.
Yes, the applicant might be able to provide some clarity on, or the homeowner might be able to provide some clarity on how the site was platted for that. Obviously, it was intended for smaller units, smaller condo units, but this site is, yes, it is a little unique in that condition.
So this is A6, but the equivalent, like if we wanted to look at equivalency here, this would probably be A3.
Yes, most
Based on-
likely, I don't know the acreage of the site, but most likely it would be closer to A3.
A3, and then the setback for A3 would be the 60 feet.
I think A3 for the rear yard would be 45 or 40 feet, so it'd be actually smaller than the
So
60 feet.
A1 is 60.
A1 is 60,
Okay.
correct. Yep.
Okay.
Any other questions for me? No?
So-
Okay. I will give it over to Leah.
Good afternoon, Leah Michaels with HRC. So here to comment on some of the drainage improvements that they do have proposed. I will go right to the image. So they are proposing a swale along the rear that's highlighted in yellow with a leaching basin in this area. There is private storm sewer that runs out to the road along the property line. Last month, we did have a couple questions about what the leaching basin and some details of what was being proposed for the site. So you will see on these slides, I have added the details that were provided in the plan as far as what the applicant is proposing for the leaching basins, for instance, in
Can
this
you
area.
define swale? What? I've
So
never heard of it.
swale is just
A ditch?
a ditch.
Okay.
Yep. But following the contours, then the water will flow along the swale to this area.
A ditch
where the-
lined with rocks or?
Grass,
Oh, okay.
grass.
Nothing,
Nope, I mean, it could be whatever material they want. I'm assuming grass in this area. It's just, they'll do a little
Okay.
grading just to make sure that the water flows around the house to where they want it to go.
got it. Thank you.
And where does it ultimately go into?
So there is a private storm sewer that runs along here near the neighboring property to the back. But again, that's a private storm sewer system.
No issues with open space on this at all.
I have a question. So the leaching basin, is that intended to catch the first excess water over what drains naturally?
It is, yep. So what we encourage applicants to do is to provide an area where water can stay on site before it leaves the property. So the leaching basin itself has an open bottom, so the intent is to let the water infiltrate into the ground on site before leaving and hitting neighboring properties.
And you have one leaching basin on
Correct.
this? Okay. And what, is there a capacity for that?
There is, we normally rely on the applicant to provide their calculations and ensure that it can accommodate it. Given the area of impervious area, the new impervious area is what we look at, so what the application is before you, ensuring that that's sufficient to accommodate the new areas that they're proposing. So yeah, we do, the applicant provides their engineering drawings and then we review them to ensure that we think they're sufficient.
Thank you.
Maybe we can get into this with the applicant, but in the plan, I was a little confused. There's like a different layout with an oval-shaped pool and a different structure. Not sure what the comparison is being made here in this. You don't have
I'd like,
this?
yeah, let's
Okay.
let the applicant answer
Okay.
that. I'm not sure.
So just getting back to the districts again, maybe this is not the right question for you, but A2 would be how much square footage?
For open space?
Yeah. No, I mean, just the size. The minimum size is 1.5 acres, so 43,560 times 1.5. What is that? I'm just, because it may actually be A2, right?
The comparability between A3 and A2 probably.
Yeah, I'm just, because if we can establish some equivalent aspect to this, it makes it easier maybe to think of it in those terms versus trying to think of this as an A6 situation.
And that makes sense, and that was the reason why we gave the A1, is because A1 are your largest lot sizes, those are the 2-acre
Right.
parcels, and so by applying the maximum of what the ordinance would require for a rear yard, that would be the 60 feet. So it just gives some perspective about, you're not gonna get any greater rear setback than 60 feet. So that was the
Right.
reason to put that into perspective, but to your point, what's the more appropriate zoning district, it would probably be A2 or A3.
Well, I was thinking of it more in terms of the neighbor is an A1, so they have 60, and if you apply that, I mean, but I'd really like to know what is the true equivalent district that we're talking about here.
And that may be A2 because.
That may be A2.
63,000 is the square footage of the
Yeah.
lot, and I think that'd be more of an acre.
Okay.
and a half. Yeah.
So it's,
That's very unusual in that area. That's the Mathai development, is that correct?
Which one?
Fred Mathai developed that property.
I'm familiar.
But anyway, it's very unusual because most of the houses are much smaller property.
okay. Any other questions? Thanks, Leah. Do we have the applicant here?
Good afternoon. Thank you for having us. My name is Matt Mosier from Mosier Design Landscape Architecture. I have the homeowners with me today, and they're excited to hopefully move forward with their pretty backyard pool. To give you guys a little bit of context and overview, we were in front of the Planning Commission a couple months ago. Before we proposed this, we actually had a pool house that we were proposing as well. The Planning Commission had some concerns about the pool house. We took those concerns and discussed with the client, and the client made the decision to remove the pool house out of respect for what the Planning Commission had said. And in doing that, we also discovered that about 10 years ago, where you saw the oval pool, that was a pool that was approved for the previous homeowner on this property, and that was 60 feet back from the property line. So that was approved by the ZBA. So with those items in mind, we went back to the drawing board. We lessened our request. We moved the pool back so it aligned with the previous application approval. Not saying that that dictates it, but we aligned with that, which I assume would be in line with what you guys were saying, which is what's kind of the maximum setback. So that put us at the 61 feet. And from there, it's pretty self-explanatory. In terms of the standards for practical difficulty, we've got a homeowner that this is not a house they built, they moved in, they didn't know what any of the setbacks were. It's a peculiar sized lot, as you guys were saying, for this type of setback. The setback on this house is actually 100 feet, which goes right to the house, which is that smaller dotted line. So it makes it literally impossible for them to have a pool, which is obviously a very common amenity within the city. We also have challenges on the other side of the lot, because then the neighbors are exposed to the pool. So naturally, having the pool behind the house is beneficial to the public. And then the last thing is the pool equipment. So the lot down below, which should be a bit to the south, is a wooded lot that is not have a house on it. Their existing air conditioners are on that side. The pool equipment would go next to those air conditioners and be fully screened. The decibels of the pool equipment are the equivalent to a modern-day air conditioner, so no additional noise. And all of this has been presented to the neighborhood association, as well as the neighbor directly affected behind, which all have provided full support for our request. So with that being said, I'll be happy to answer any questions.
Do they have a whole house generator?
Do you guys have a whole house, or is it generator? Yeah.
Where's that located? Near the air conditioners?
No, it's this area right here. It's behind the house.
Oh, okay. And that's gonna stay there? Okay.
Can I ask, the house behind us is off of Rathmore, and all those houses sit way lower that when I'm on my backyard, I see the roof of all those houses. It's not like when they're in their backyard, they could see the pool.
Any other questions from Matt?
I've got a question. So when there was a pool house contemplated, was that in this existing footprint of the design, or was it outside?
We had it a little closer to the property line. We were looking at more of an A2, A3 setback.
Okay,
So part of this whole thing is shifting everything toward the house.
that answered my question. Thank you.
What's the foliage look like between the two properties?
It's a nice, there's a pretty significant dense canopy of trees. So it's a wooded lot all the way around. And like I said, when they went to their neighbor behind them, they said, we can't even see up your hill, so we're good with it.
Yeah, that's an important point.
Right.
Is there pool fencing contemplated in this design?
Yeah, so the pool fence is the blue line that you see on the drawing right there. So it's proposed to be around the footprint of the area.
Okay.
Okay, thanks, Matt.
Welcome.
Do we have any comments from residents?
Mr. Chairman, I'll just point out one thing, which is my typing mistake. On your materials, page 1, item 1, it should say A6, not A1. So for your edification, A6, not A1, on the proposed attorney-provided information, item 1.
Oh, that should be A6 district?
Correct.
Unachievable?
I'm having, yes.
Okay.
I apologize. I just wanted to point that out. Thank you.
Any other thoughts, discussion?
No.
Do I have a motion?
A motion. I move to approve the variances. Read the entire thing.
We recommend that the board make findings of fact as to whether there's an approval or denial. So yes, I would recommend that.
Okay. I move to approve variances from sections 24-73B5, 24-74B5, dash B6, 24-196 and 24-299B and 24-299B11D to allow a pool in the required rear yard setback and to allow pool equipment to encroach 26 feet 9 inches into the required 40-foot setback. The applicant has demonstrated practical difficulty for the following reasons. 1, strict compliance with the requirements would unreasonably prevent or severely limit the owner from improving the property. The entire rear yard falls within the required setback, making compliance with the ordinance requirements for the A6 district unachievable for the property owner. 2, the requested variances would do substantial justice to the property owner as well as other property owners. The property owner seeks to improve their property in manner similar to other similarly situated properties within the city. For the homeowner to site their pool and required equipment in the rear yard, they must necessarily violate the setback requirements for the A6 district. Correct?
Correct.
A variance in this case would do the property owner substantial justice. Further, the Scenic Woods Homeowners Association has provided a letter of support for the plans as proposed. This fact indicates that there is general support for this proposal as presented amongst the property owner's neighbors. 3, the plight of the property owner is due to the uniqueness of the property. The entire rear yard falls within the required setback. Due to the configuration of the property, there is no opportunity for the property owner to both comply with ordinance standards and improve upon their property. The property is unique in this aspect. 4, the proponent's problem is not self-created, as the layout of the rear yard and how the setback standards apply to said rear yard are not within the control of the property owners. 5, the granting of the variances will not adversely affect the purposes or objectives of the master plan. The purpose of the master plan in residential areas is to allow homeowners the opportunity to improve the property while minimizing impact on the neighbors. HRC found that the proposed improvements have no adverse drainage impacts to the subject site or surrounding properties. The Homeowners Association has expressed support for this plan as proposed. Given these facts, as well as the facts presented in the packet, I find that the granting of these variances will not adversely affect the purposes or objectives of the master plan.
Do I have a second?
Second.
Second. All in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? Motion carries. Thank you. Thank you. All right, next up, the board will consider the request from the property owner at 100 West Long Lake Road to allow improvements that exceed general maintenance to the existing non-conforming building, including setback variances and variance from the maximum building height limit.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. My name is Eric Peach with Giffords Webster, planning consultant, along with Ian. The next item for consideration and discussion is the property at 100 West Long Lake Road. Just west of here on Long Lake, west of Woodward Avenue, is the Zone 02. So this is an existing building abutting the A1 district to the west and Rathmore Road. Long Lake Road is to the south on the subject site highlighted here with a black boundary. What's before you today is for 6 different variances, each one to be taken independently. And so what the applicant is proposing to do with this existing building is to breathe new life into it architecturally, both outside and inside. This application went before the Planning Commission for full site plan approval last week, in which the Planning Commission did approve the site plan, subject to the considerations by the Zoning Board of Appeals today. for the requested variances. So to go through each one of those, you'll see up on the screen, there's, again, 6 different variance requests. The first one is in relation to the site as being an existing non-conforming building. And so what that means is that the building as it exists encroaches into the setbacks. Move on to this, well, let me just focus on, sorry. Whoops. Okay. The building exists as a nonconformity, meaning it encroaches into the setbacks. So when making improvements that are above and beyond just general maintenance, the ordinance says that you have to comply with the standards of the ordinance. And so by recladding the building with the new curtain walls and whatnot, because that's above and beyond general maintenance, that's the first variance, is to do improvements within a building or within a building that's non-conforming. The second variance request is for the 45-foot required setback. This is along Long Lake Road. The building meets the minimum setback because the setback is measured from the center line, and we'll get into more details on that in just a second. But it fails the algebraic setback. So when we apply the formula for the additional setback, because the building is so long and because of its proximity to Long Lake, that algebraic analysis fails. And so that's a variance that's before you today. Along the Longwood side, the building is encroaching into that. The building meets the setback but is proposing to encroach further into the minimum setback there. So we'll get into more of those details in just a second. Number 3, the 35-foot maximum building height. The building exists today at 38 feet 5 inches. So the ordinance allows for a height of 35 feet. So it's 3 feet 5 inches taller than what the ordinance allows. And so again, it's an existing nonconformity. So by proposing the improvements, they're proposing no higher than what exists today. So by doing so, they're held to the 35-foot height standard. And so therefore, by proposing a height that matches the existing building, it requires that dimensional variance as well. And then this height variance is for the proposed canopy. So there's 2 canopies that are proposed, and of course, they're not going to be lower than the height of the building. They're requesting to match the height of the building at 38 feet 5 inches. Variance 5 is for the second canopy structure on the east elevation to be of the same height. So it's a 3 foot 5 inch variance request. And then a full site plan analysis of the site, because they're proposing an atrium to the back interior side of the building. That opens up the parking analysis. So we did a full parking analysis for the additional square footage, which is, again, is very minimal. But because that introduces that section of the ordinance into analysis, it triggers the requirement for a loading area. All that to say, they do propose a loading area, but it's within the side yard, and so that's not permissible. Loading zones are required to be within the rear yard. So that's the 6th dimensional variance request from the applicant. So this is just an aerial that we can refer to if there's ever any questions about the outlying vicinity of the building. But again, it's an existing building. It's a corner lot because it's along Longwood Drive and Lakewood, or West Long Lake Road. So the green areas are what's highlighted as the front yards. So where those setbacks apply to the front of the building, and then those yard lines dictate where the side yards are located, and then the end result is this kind of funky looking rear yard in the northwest corner of the site. So as we zoom in to get a little bit better of a perspective of what's being requested, the footprint of the building, again, it meets the setback along the south side here. But when you apply the algebraic setback, and I know some of you may not be as familiar with that, there's an additional setback that addresses the massing of a building. And so it takes into account the length of the building and the height of a building in regards to or in relation to its proximity to the property line. So while the building meets the minimum setback, it fails the algebraic setback along the south side. Over here, the setback is, or the building is proposing an awning in this location, which extends further into the setback. So that's a request from the applicant who is here and glad to speak to you regarding the elements of that. It's kind of hard to see. It's highlighted here in a light shaded green or blue. And then the second awning is located here at the new atrium proposal, more of the interior of the building. And so it's those awning structures that match the height of the building, which again is above and beyond the 35-foot height per the current ordinance standards. So looking at, again, the setbacks, this is an image of the existing building earlier this year along Long Lake Road here, and then this is Longwood. Again, the setback requirement along Long Lake is 75 feet from the center line. So when taking those measurements, the building is approximately right at the 75-foot setback in that location, and it jogs or increases as the turn or the curvature of Long Lake Road proceeds to the west. Looking at the east side of the building, the required setback is 45 feet along Longwood, and so that's the blue dash line highlighted here. The existing building, is encroaching at the 39 feet 6 inches, so that is existing non-conforming. That's the portion of the building highlighted here. That's an encroachment of about 5 feet 6 inches. So by adding an awning in this location, you can kind of see it outlined here, that's a further extension into the required setback. So this is an image showing what's proposed along that side of the building. This is the east side of the building. So these are the dimensions to give you some sense of where things exist today. That's highlighted in pink. And then the red is a 12-foot wide awning proposed over that section of the building, which would result in approximately a distance of 26 feet from the Longwood property line. And so that's a variance of approximately 19 feet. So the next few images are just showing you some lay of the land images of the building as it exists today compared to what it's intended to look like. So this would be a perspective if you're driving in off of Longwood Drive from the east. And then that same image with the proposed improvements before you today. So this would be the new facade. It's an aluminum facade with glass paneling. The architect is here that can explain and go through those details with you. And then this is the proposed additional atrium along with the awning adjacent to it. Again, more or less the same perspective. The parking lot is off to the right. This is the drive-in from the street, looking at the building. And again, the proposed atrium and the awning on top. Existing today and what's proposed. And so again, by doing a full site plan review, which is again is what took us to the Planning Commission last week, we did an analysis of what the parking situation currently is. The site requires 101 parking spaces, and we counted that the existing parking has approximately 153 spaces. 42 of those are located underneath the building, and then 111 are out within the surface parking area. So they have more parking spaces than what's required. Because they're doing updates and modifications, we asked that they come in greater compliance with ADA standards, which is not an ordinance requirement, it's more of a state requirement. And so existing today, I believe there's only one ADA space, accessible space, and so they're gonna propose 6 total with the improvement. So that means they're taking away some of the existing parking spaces, but as you can see, they have excessive amount of parking in order to do so. Another modification to the existing parking lot is access from the street to the dumpster enclosure. The garbage truck would come off of Longwood here and follow a path to the dumpster in this location. We observed a little bit of a pinch point at this location where the distance between the parking spaces is approximately 16 feet. And so in working with the building official, Public Works, Their suggestion is to remove these 2 parking spaces with the number 12 in them, which would open up this pinch point area here. And again, because they have excessive amount of parking spaces, they would be able to make that modification. But we just wanted to point that out in terms of a site plan review analysis criteria. So
What
I'm sorry?
about other buildings in that area? Are they as tall as that building?
Well, the maximum building height is 35 feet or 2 stories. And so that's, I don't know for sure what their heights are, but they would be around that dimension.
The other buildings, the same, there are other large buildings in that area.
Yes, I'm not aware of any that have a variance for height. So I would imagine most of them are within 30 to 35 feet. So the addition proposed to the existing building is approximately 561 square feet. Again, it's very minimal. It's highlighted in this area here, and I think I have a more zoomed in version just showing some common area interior to the site. There's some modifications to the elevator and storage locations within the main building. Again, the building height, 38 feet, 5 inches is the existing height, and so what's proposed in terms of the awnings and the atrium is to match that height. So the ordinance today requires a 35-foot height limitation. So they're just asking to maintain what's currently there and not exceed any additional height. So this is the location of the loading zone. The dimensions of 50 feet by 10 feet meet the ordinance standard. It's just the location, because of the complexity or the configuration of the existing lot, it's a little bit tricky to find a location near the building. So they're proposing it here, which ends up being the side yard. It's pushed in further enough away from the street that this is the front yard, and so the side yard is here. But because the ordinance requires it to be in the rear yard, which would be way back, if you recall, this is where the ordinance requires loading zones, and so it's not feasible to put loading back there, and plus that's more or less a green area, which helps buffer the site from the adjacent A1 residential district. And then looking at a little bit of the landscape plan, this is the north side. They are making some improvements. However, it's very minimal just because their focus is to keep things the way they are with the improvements to the building itself. But they'll remove the existing trees that are along the drive here and replace those with bleached linden, which is a nice manicured row of linden trees. 3 inches in caliper. So all of the landscaping is found to meet the standards of the landscape ordinance. But along the south side, where most of the appearance will be from public streets, will be additional street trees. We have some Hamlin grass along here. There's a proposed sign, which was a component of the Planning Commission application. The Planning Commission did approve that sign, so there'll be some landscape enhancements to that corner area of the site, and then there'll be a 5-foot cedar hedge that surrounds the exterior of the building to help soften a lot of the architectural elements of the curtain wall that will be installed. And then just for some perspective, you can see there's some change in elevation. I think Leah might have some details in regards to HRC's review of the grading ordinance, but this is where that proposed awning will be located on the east side of the building.
That awning is purely decorative. It's not, doesn't serve any purpose to shield people from rain or anything?
That's a good question, and so it is a decorative feature. The architect, again, is here who can speak to the sunshade element, so it serves a purpose as it relates to sun protection, like in the morning, because that faces east.
Okay.
So Mr. DeRozier's here to speak to that.
That makes sense.
Mm-hmm. And then just to finish up real quick here, this is just last few images from different perspectives of the building. This portion of the parking lot is located in the front yard. So at the beginning, there was some minor improvements to that, but because it's in the front yard, it's an existing nonconformity. So we encourage the applicant to keep that as is, or it would be another variance request to make any modifications to that existing parking lot that's in the front yard. So that's kind of a quick overview from my perspective. Leah's here to talk about the engineering.
Do you have another photo of the side that faces Long Lake?
Long Lake, I think it's just that winter perspective.
No, existing.
I think it's, that's
No,
the closest
not
one.
much. Okay. Yeah, the landscaping that's currently there isn't maintained very well, and it's old and dated, and I really hope the building owner takes greater care of the new stuff. The grass we just saw is horrible. So I hope there's gonna be a sprinkler system. He's spending all this money on landscaping. Hopefully it'll be maintained in a better way than it currently is. So, okay.
Did you have a question?
No.
I don't have a lot to say about this since it's mostly building related. As Eric mentioned, they are proposing a new sign in the corner along Long Lake. And as far as the engineering review, all we wanted to point out is that they are proposing that on top of the existing water main easement, slight encroachment into the water main easement, so there's water main that goes under there. So a stipulation of planning commission, and which we typically do with applicants, is just have them sign an agreement that they would be responsible for replacing this if the city ever needed to work on the utility that's underground there. So that's all I had.
Okay, let's hear from the applicant.
Thank you. You can stay. Okay, it's me again. Matt Mosier, Mosier Design Landscape Architecture, here with Lou DeRosier of DeRosier Architects, the owner of the building, and our team from Nowak and Frous, the engineers, in case there's any questions on engineering, as well as the builder. So anyway, got the whole team here and looking forward to presenting. I know I'm landscape architecture, but I'm going to go through some of the building stuff and then lose the architect, so he'll talk about the pretty picture part and all the stuff that I don't know. So anyway, let me start with this so we can keep it organized. Tonight, as you saw, we're here to request 6 dimensional variances that relate to this site. For context, and some of this is self-explanatory, we've got a very old building, 50-plus years, that is obviously overdue for a nice refresh. It's technically a legal non-conforming structure at this point. Its height and setbacks were established decades before the current ordinance was written. The community has seen this building in form for generations. So I'm going to break it down, and I'm going to separate out the front awning from the other ones because I feel the other ones are fairly straightforward. So of the 6 items before you, 4 of them, variances 1, 3, 4, and 5, do not involve any new encroachments. They're purely because we're working with a non-conforming existing structure. We're not going any higher than what the building already stands or closer to any street than where the building already sits. We're simply seeking to renovate what's there. Item 2 is probably the one that's, at least at the Planning Commission, was the most discussed. That's this awning that is along Longwood Drive. It's an element that introduces a new projection into the required setback. I'm going to address that in detail because I believe the board understands the nature of the element. Once you understand, it'll paint a much clearer picture of what its purpose serves. In every case, we feel that we meet all 5 standards of practical difficulty, and we satisfy the threshold under section 24-279. The relief that we're requesting, we feel, is minimum and necessary to allow this building to be improved. For items 1, 3, 4, and 5, because they all arise from the same underlying fact that the building exists as it is today and has existed that way for over 50 years, Item 1 covers the overall renovation of the building, maintaining its existing 38-foot, 5-inch height, its existing front setbacks while we reclad the facade, add the atrium, and make architectural improvements. Items 3 and 4 address the atrium addition and its canopy, both at the same 38-foot, 5-inch height as the existing building. We're not going any higher than what already stands in its place. We're simply integrating new addition to the established roof line. Item 5 addresses the east elevation canopy, again at the same height as the existing building for the same reason. We're not asking for anything the public hasn't already lived with for many years. The height of this building and its position on its lot have been visible from Long Lake and Longwood Drive before many of these ordinances standards existed. Requiring us to lower the building or relocate it or confine our additions to a lower height would be genuinely unreasonable, we find, or we believe. Not merely inconvenient, it would make a beneficial renovation economically and practically impossible. So the big item, and this was the item that was discussed most at last week's Planning Commission, is item number 2, which is the proposed awning along Longwood Drive. This would project 26 feet into the required 45-foot front yard setback.
Show them the picture of it.
Yeah, we can do that in a minute.
We have a different view than you've seen, I'm sorry. We have a little different presentation. Amy's gonna help
Oh,
us.
I'm going the wrong way.
Amy's gonna help us out here. Our presentation is different than,
I'll at least go to the picture of this awning on this one.
well, but it only shows part of it. Do you have that one, Amy? Can you show us?
Right here.
Do you want me to load it?
Yeah, go ahead.
Yeah, because, I'm sorry to interrupt. The best way to show everything we're doing is before and afters. So our whole presentation is as it looks now, and you'll see it in a minute when Amy gets us organized here.
There you go.
Just thank you for your patience. It's just a different perspective. Because they're exact views of before and after. Did you, all of you receive the large? The
Yes.
packets, yeah, which we wanted to
Do
reduce.
you know how to get
Mhm.
Because the screen shows it.
If here's a small version, I wanted to give you all of this before we're gonna pass it on down. That shows the before and afters, but you'll see it on the big screen in a minute, I hope.
Thank you.
Oh, it's PDF?
Yes.
All right, here we go, that's good. I don't know if we can make it larger. Make it larger on the screen. Well, me, I want everything. Oh, and while we're here, that's perfect, that's perfect. Oh, well, it's too big now. We wanna see the before and after at the same time.
Right there.
Perfect, right there.
I'll finish this and then you can
Yeah,
talk about
don't
it.
forget to introduce SK.
Yeah, I did.
Oh,
Ask
did
the
you?
owner,
I'm
yep.
sorry. Good,
Okay.
the owner is here.
Okay, so first, what is this awning physically? It's an upper story architectural element. Cantilevers off the face of the building above grade. It does not touch the ground. It does not except for the piers at the bottom of the building. It does not extend to grade. There's no physical presence at street level within the setback. The street view remains completely open and unobstructed. The setback ordinance exists to prevent buildings and permanent structures from crowding streets, we believe, and other buildings. This is the purpose of that ordinance. An upper story cantilever awning does not implicate that concern. The spirit of the ordinance is aimed at ground level mass, not architectural projections off the upper portion of the building that has been occupied for many years. Second, why do we need it? The Longwood Drive elevation faces significant solar exposure to the east. Because of all the new windows, currently the building, as you see, doesn't have nearly as many. Without adequate shading, the interior space can become uncomfortable and energy inefficient. A practical barrier to attracting and retaining office tenants. The awning is not decorative. It's also not only decorative, but also functional. Third, it's a significant architectural improvement in our eyes. This building currently lacks dimension and visual character on that elevation. The awning gives the facade proper proportion and identity. In our mind, it's exactly the detail and quality of design that the city's planning documents encourage for the commercial corridor along Long Lake. Therefore, it's our opinion that this awning only is a positive and not a negative. And fortunately, at last week's planning commission, most of the commissioners agreed, not that it matters to you, but we thought it was a nice design. So I will leave it at that from an actual overview, hardships, and I'll let Lou chime in on his design.
Hold on one second. Why is it that exact size? Why not 1 foot? Why not 20 feet?
We had it.
Why that size?
You can tell him how you had it bigger, right?
Yeah, I will in a second.
Okay.
Can you, Eric, can you make it a little smaller, because we go to the next
Yeah,
one?
I'll do it.
You see how it's cut off there? Yeah. I don't want to touch somebody else's computer. I've had enough trouble with my own. That's better. All right, thank you so much. We'll stay here. You're going to have to go.
I know.
Okay, so first of all, I'm Lou DeRosier, architect. A little nostalgic note. Between my father and I, we've worked in your community 100 years. My dad did St. Hugo's in 1930. I did Northern Trust, Penske's headquarters, so we've been here. And it's great to be here for a new building, making a new building out of an older building. So and we thought the best way to present this, I'll probably be a little less detailed, or about the motion of the building. You know, as we've all been looking at this building, or some of us, I mean, I've driven down the street 1,000 times, and I don't think I hardly ever noticed that building, and as an architect, I notice every building. So this building is very, very tired. It's been there 52 years. It's 40,000 square feet. It has the atrium, the new addition, is 500 feet, which was discussed earlier. And our architectural goal here was very simple. It was to bring it into the standards of 2026 and upgrading everything along with your city and all the upgrades you're looking for here. And so that's very important. The exterior has a complete facelift to give it new life and great curb appeal. That's what this is all about. The materials I have, I'll show you, are for the Planning Commission did approve, which was a great positive. We enjoyed presenting it to them. We have a curtain wall, bronze glass curtain wall, low E glass curtain wall. It controls the cold from coming in and so forth. And we have also on the perimeter is a very heavy gauge composite metal, which is made by, it's called the Lucabon. They've been in business 57 years. It's an excellent product. I have real samples here if you'd like. I'd be more than happy to show you. But I know that's not exactly why we're here for yourselves. The most important thing here, of course, is the height, and it was touched on already that to pass the height, the ordinance, you'd have to rebuild the entire building because we are. So we had to deal with the 38 feet, and we just hope that you're willing to work along with us. After all, it has. We've all been looking at it for 52 years. So, well, not all of us. Okay, not all of you. So the other thing is this new design is part of the existing structure. We had to work with the structure, and that's why you mentioned about matching the heights and so forth. The other thing is we worked closely with your consultants. You didn't know this before, but this canopy was cut back from 2 feet from 14 to 12, and it was also, there used to be a balcony underneath it, and we removed it because, well, we got the feeling it wasn't something you'd like to see. And between all of us, I started thinking about in Michigan, how much do we use these anyhow? You know? So the other thing is, let's see. This is the most important thing, and this is what created. It's a real hardship. It's this building faces dead east. The morning sun. There's no trees or anything in the way. The morning sun. I've been there. Comes up, shines right through the building horizontally. Extremely irritating. And so the practical solution, and it's been referred to as awning. I'm not sure where that came from because I always referred to them as sun louvers. An awning makes you think it might protect you from rain. These are louvers. They're just to protect you from the sunlight that the rain goes through them. So I think that's important to know. In the morning, the sun is very intense, and I wanted to make that really
Are those windows any different material than the other side of the building because of the sunlight?
No, they'll all be the same high quality.
I know they're all high quality.
Tinted low E
They're tinning,
glass.
I'm
No, but they're
wondering
they're
about.
the same, right?
Okay, they're the same on the
Yeah,
entire
I'm glad
building,
you
whether it
asked that.
faces west or north, or
Yes, I
you're
mean,
gonna have the same?
we wanted to match the aesthetics of it.
Okay.
Thank you, Fred, that's a good point.
Okay.
So, the other thing is these louvers match, you've all seen, and could we go to the next picture, please? The brand new, a lot of more money and efforts going into this beautiful new atrium, and there you see before and afters exactly of what it can look like. And so you can see it has this beautiful sun protection too, because guess what, that faces dead east also. So the unfortunate part is when you're out on Long Lake Road, you have no idea that this exists. I mean, it's unfortunate because this atrium won't be seen by too many people unless they drive through that behind the buildings as you're with the new building that's there. Is it Longwood Drive? Yeah. And then, so it was important, if you want to go back again, for me to have to try to relate, give you a hint of what's to come when you go to this building, this beautiful louvers, give you a hint of, wow, that's pretty cool. And when you turn the corner, all of a sudden you see what it's all about because the architecture is all integral from one thing to another. So anyhow, the important, also very, very important thing to know is that, this is cantilevered up in the air. Granted, it's 6 out of 12 feet. There's nothing in the earth. We're not projecting any foundations or anything in the earth. So it's just floating kind of like the brim of your golf hat, okay? Probably a good analogy. And the other thing to note that was touched on already, but I wanted to hide this parking here. So, I'm sorry. The landscaper, Matt, did a great job of surrounding the building with screen from both side front yards with these total evergreen hedgerow. So you will never see all those cars parked in there, and you can see it in the upper photograph. So I thought that was a nice feature, and I think the landscaping you have added is going to be very considerable and make a big difference on this building. As you say, it has to be maintained, of course.
Yeah, back to the landscaping,
Yeah.
any sprinkler systems in there?
Yeah.
With all this, though, it's a no-brainer as far as these getting water that they need, and, because the existing landscaping is not great.
Yeah, fully automated systems.
Okay, everything will be watered on a timely basis and the whole
Well, you
nine
can
yards.
always ask the owner, he's right over there.
Okay.
The other thing, I'm almost done here, so we added, let's see, I said the addition of the atrium is it's a three-story atrium. We also added a new elevator and kept the old one, so it's a glass elevator. If you can go back to the entrance again, and when you're going up and down to the various floors, you can see out over that beautiful neighborhood there in the concept and those pretty buildings and landscaping. So they're also, because of this is the practical difficulty, you all know, we had to line up with the existing roof regardless, because on the top floor, if you did you couldn't do the 35 because people couldn't walk. I had to land with the ceiling that's already there. I think everybody understands that, of course. And so anyhow, we think this is really the only practical design solution for this building. It's a new 3-story atrium, and it creates exciting new features with this tired structure, and it's going to attract new high-end tenants to your beautiful city in Bloomfield Hills. And so we hope that you'll work with us on this because we're really excited about the project. Okay? Sure.
I love the atrium, Louis. It's beautiful, but I've got a question about the awning facing Longwood. Yeah, that one. I'm just curious, at what hour of the morning do you start getting relief? What point?
Well, it's funny, as you know, the sun starts, in winter, it'll be tougher, but in the sun, as the sun starts up, at this time of year, almost the longest day of the year. But as it starts up, you get it from about, 6 to 9 or so. But then the sun starts going much more vertical in the summer. And so it's not as bad on the south side. The good news is on the west side, they have all woods, solid woods. The trees are 10 feet from the buildings, they shade all the time, so they don't have to worry about sunset over there anymore.
So you're saying on the east-facing side, after 9 a.m., they're going to start getting some relief from the...
Yeah, I would say it depends on the time of the year. I have a solar plan to tell us that, but I'd say being there, it'd be about 10 o'clock But I think it starts to, you're gonna get relief. Oh, when am I gonna start getting relief? Oh, earlier than that, probably about, yeah, you're right, about 8 or 9. I meant, when will it not be important anymore? When the sun-
And does that provide any relief to the first floor or second
Oh,
floor?
yes,
I
it
guess?
depends obviously on the exact height of the sun. We
Yeah.
cannot control the sun. But
Did you do the lighting studies? The solar?
for the solar,
Yeah.
you know, we didn't because we knew that the sun is totally flexible. Every year is different. We just did what we thought would
Well,
be
you
practical.
you
and
accommodate for the worst day and the best day.
the worst day, yes,
I
and
mean,
the
you've
worst
got
day, you're
December
never gonna.
21st, and you've got June 21st.
You could have
And then
a
you look
100-foot
you look at your
cantilever, right.
angles.
In winter, you could have a 100-foot canopy, and it
Right.
would never,
Well-
that first couple hours in the morning.
To Commissioner Carroll's point, though, looking at it from a functional standpoint, it doesn't look like there's much relief until about, 10 o'clock in the morning, during the summer months, and once the sun gets vertical, it's not much of an issue anyway. I'm just trying to understand how functional it's actually gonna be, because if you really wanted a truly, shade for the morning sunlight coming up at 6, 7 o'clock in the morning, 8 o'clock, you really need vertical louvers all the way down, covering the windows.
Right.
And I know that's probably not architecturally in line with what, so are we looking at a decorative feature, or are we looking at an actual functional
It's
feature?
very functional, but it is also goes with the rest of the architecture. And as I said, it's very important, to myself it was, to have the front give you a hint of what you're gonna see as you pull around in the back of the building. It's a very nice added feature. We actually took it off once. The building lost a lot of interest, lost a lot. It looked like the building below a little bit.
From an engineering standpoint, I understand those piers do tie into the atrium. The look, it is kind of foretells what you're gonna see when you come around the corner. I heard you say that.
Yes,
I
yes, yes.
understand that. Would it be possible to support it from above, have a true cantilever, like a
You mean
supports coming out
without
from
the
above
angled columns?
Without having the angled columns come down? I'm just curious.
I mean, it'd be it's a lot more expensive, tremendous
be.
amount going into the structure to come back out of it with large beams. And also, again, this creates interest. If you take those off, it's not as interesting. When you go around and look at the other, if you mind, you'll see them, they're there holding up that canopy too.
I see that.
So it's a strong relationship. That picture on the upper left, you can go back to the other one, on the upper left shows you get a little hint of the canopy at the front. So we think it's important, both practical and aesthetically.
And it's 12 feet out, is that correct?
That's it, 12 feet. It was 14, we cut it back. Eric was giving me a hard time about that. In a good way. Right, well, you can say that. Yeah, we were just saying here that working hours start about 9, so it's gonna start helping you when you get to work. Nobody can do much about the sun from 6 to 8.
Is there a tempering of the glass or anything that you can do on that east face that would make it look
Yeah,
the
this
same?
is all bronze tinted, low E reflective glass. This is a state-of-the-art glass. But the light still comes
Yeah,
in.
I understand.
And they'll probably we'll have probably electric blinds that come down, if needed. The important thing is if we do blinds, one of my fetishes is make them brown on the outside so that they're not white and then they're half open and shut. Like, I'll never forget the Kelly building over at 16 and 75 where all the blinds were up and down all over the place. The thing was totally chaotic.
Question for you, Eric, in relation to this. When we talk about setbacks and the overhangs of a roof or something like that, those are taken into account. What is I kind of agree with what you said, but I just want to hear it from you, Eric. What is the reason for taking into account the overhangs versus just the mass, the footprint of the structure?
Yeah, so there's kind of two ways to look at it. The building itself, it does encroach, but if it didn't, then this would follow a standard, this being the awning on the east side, would follow an encroachment standard that the ordinance allows for a 3-foot cantilever beyond the setback. So if the building was right at 45, I think that's what's required, right, 45? If the building was at 45, a cantilever up to 3 feet into the setback would be allowed. So that'd be a 42-foot setback. So because the building's already in the setback, it's already exceeding that amount. So, you know, you could say, well, is a 3-foot wide, what is it called, awning?
Sunlouvers.
Sunlouvers, would 3 feet be ideal in this type of situation, so that if it was all in compliance, would 3 feet satisfy or be effective in achieving what the
Was that 3 feet taken into account with this, as far as?
I mean, it was, but at the same time, it's already an existing nonconformity, so we kind of take it from that standpoint of what's existing currently. So it's part of the analysis, but I don't know that there's a whole lot of weight that's.
Did you, you maybe probably didn't do this, but if you ran the algebraic analysis on 35 feet, assuming the building was 35, what would do you know what the setback would have been?
For the algebraic?
Yeah, the algebraic.
It's hard to say.
But this is not on that side, right? That was on the,
Right.
that was the
only
Long
side
Lake side,
Yeah,
okay.
the Long Lake side is the only one that fails, and I don't know how close the east side would be, but it complies, because it's a shorter length of building, right? So if it was at 30, 35, I don't know. I can't say for sure.
And again, go ahead, I'm sorry. You were gonna say-
I was just gonna say, I think the, one thing to think about is the intent of these overhangs on like a house or a building is you're trying to keep structures from getting too tight with one another. This particular building sits completely on its own. And so in my view, the spirit of ordinances with setbacks, overhangs, all that stuff is meant to keep things from crowding. In this case, I don't think that is an issue at all. And I think it serves a practical matter of, you know, not only looking nice on the building, but helping a little bit with the sun. So, you know, I just feel like it's definitely a unique circumstance that's not common on other structures.
I think it's helping a lot for the sun. That's why when you mentioned 3 feet here would be incidental. I noticed the building on the north actually has those, but north of us, the new building. But this now is going to give some real protection for the first two, for the people who live in that building. You know, there's parking below, so the first 2 floors are going to get some great protection.
Is there a reason why it's not going the full span of the glass?
That's pure aesthetic. I thought it looked the best this way. You don't realize there's 5 different drawings ahead of this that we look at. But I knew you were concerned about that. But no, it's just because we think it looks the best that way.
So the guy in the corner office is out of luck then?
Well, that's a word, sunglasses.
Mr. Chairman, if I may, I don't want to cut off board discussion, but because this is such a complex item, I would recommend that instead of reading each individual variance, because they are not numbered, how they've been referred to, I would recommend that when the board is ready to make a motion, the board, for example, says, I move to approve or deny variances 1 through 6, or I move to approve variances 1, 3, and 5 through 6, if, for example, the person making the motion does not wish to approve the awning. So that is how I would refer to it, just to keep everything consistent, given how the board has referred to these motions and how they've been discussed. So it will be easier for, for Amy and everyone reviewing it. So that would be my recommendation instead of going through each individual. So again, I move to approve items 1 through 6, or items 1, 3, and 1, 3, 5, and 6. Yes.
Okay.
There we go.
Thank you.
Thank you, Mr. Chair.
I think we should also try to think about this not so much in terms of whether we like the architectural feature or not. Some people may like it, some people may not like it. And that goes for the functional aspect as well, because I'm a little bit skeptical about how much sun that will actually block, especially in the winter months when there isn't any foliage at all. So it really boils down to how much does this violate the ordinance? And is that violation something, does it violate the intent of the ordinance? And that's why my question was about the overhangs and how that affects this kind of a situation. So I think we should just keep that in mind when we're thinking about this. It's not about whether we like it or don't like it. It's about how does it affect, how does it encroach on the ordinance, and whether we feel it's a serious situation or if it's not really affecting the intent. So we should think of it in those terms.
It's not really violating height any more than the building.
No, and I think the height issue is, well, at least for me, it's a non-issue because it's pre-existing, and of course, I agree it would be a complete tear-up to try to take away 3 feet from the building.
And with the building that tall, 3 feet seems minimal.
Right, in proportion, yeah.
Incidental.
Yeah, I like the idea that it's elevated in that way. I can agree with granting of a motion to approve because of the height that it's at and where the encroachment is at 38 or 35 feet versus ground level, encroaching into the setback. So that's my thought on that.
And driving into the building, the present building, I can see having some changes would make it a friendlier place to go than, it is today.
Would you like to make a motion?
Yeah, I'd like to make a motion to approve all 6 variances that's on the agenda today.
That's good enough for the...
What reasons has the how has the applicant demonstrated practical difficulty?
Because the non-conforming structure to begin with is the basis of this whole thing. The only thing that was in question was this sunshade awning there, and I'm happy with its aesthetics, but more importantly, it doesn't, because of its height, I think it doesn't take away from the current ordinance at all.
Do you find that items 1 through 5 have been met by the applicant for all 6?
Those, yeah. Let me do a quick review. The one's good. Yeah, 2. There are unique circumstances, so 3 is good in my book. Not self-created. And I'm good with 5 as well, so.
So you move to approve all 6 proposed proposed variances for 100 Long Lake Road for the reasons stated on the record.
Correct.
All right, thank you for the clarity.
And I will second that.
All in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Aye. Any opposed?
Aye.
You're opposed?
No.
Oh, okay.
Late with the aye.
So everyone voted yes?
Yes.
All right, great.
Thank you, guys, appreciate you.
Aye. Thank you.
Bravo on the design. Looks good.
Appreciate it very much.
Where's the, who's the owner of the building?
Just right there. Come on in, ask
Oh,
Stand
wow.
there, introduce yourself.
And thank you for your investment in the city. I know this is gonna be a few bucks, and, you're gonna really improve the look of the building, and, a lot of cars drive down Long Lake.
Yes, exactly. Everybody kind of points out, really doesn't look good.
Does not.
Acquired it 2 years ago, and it was kind of difficult to kind of stay there without making improvements.
Sure.
Appreciate all the help. Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Okay, the board will now consider the request from the property owner at 420 Dunstan Road for a setback variance. And setback variance for an accessory building and a dimensional variance for the ordinance allowed size.
Yes, so the next item is 420 Dunstan Road for the proposed accessory building. So as stated, the proposed accessory building encroaches 8 feet into the 20-foot setback requirement from the main building. And then it also exceeds the total square footage for the accessory building by 1,055 square feet. 3,036 square feet is the total size of the proposed building. So the site is zoned A3. Again, variances are required to not meet the 20-foot setback from the main building, as well as exceeding the allowed total floor area. This site did receive planning commission approval in September 2025 for a sport court in the side yard. And then following that, it received ZBA approval to allow the sport court barriers to be 10 feet in height in September of 2025. So the first variance request is for it to encroach 8 feet into the 20-foot setback. So here, the proposed cabana or accessory building is shown in red, and then down below is the 12-foot setback from the main building. There's a small pool located here, so it is considered a pool house. And then the next slide here just shows its overall setback to the rear yard. So it's setback 40.68 feet from the rear property line, and the requirement is 40 feet, so it does meet that. So if it were to shift any farther, it would run into the sport court or potentially encroach into the required rear yard of 40 feet. So the second variance request is for the accessory building to exceed the maximum allowed square footage. Within the ordinance, there is a formula that is required for detached accessory buildings, and that formula is a quarter of the ground floor area of the main building, so the existing home, and then plus sites are allowed a square footage credit. So for the A3 district, that's 600 square feet. So that comes out to 1,981 square feet is the maximum building that they could build. They are proposing to construct it at 3,036 square feet, which also includes the basement of the proposed pool cabana, which is mainly used for storage as well as housing the mechanical equipment for the pool. Per the ordinance, they are required to take that lower level into account for their calculation. So a variance is required of 1,055 square feet is what they are asking for today. So on the right there is the exact formula and calculation that the applicant provided. And the next few slides are renderings of the proposed accessory building.
So the above ground's only about 2,000 square feet,
Correct, yep.
what people can see.
Yeah.
1,000 square feet, nobody can see.
The applicant can verify,
Roughly.
yeah, roughly, yep.
Okay.
So you could assume potentially it does meet that 1,900 square foot requirement, but the applicant can't confirm that for us. So the next few slides have some renderings of the proposed building. So this is kind of looking towards it from the house, and in the back you can see here is that sport court that was approved, and then right here is the small pool area. This is looking from the west. And then, oops, it looks like I got two of the same.
So we're looking at a reflection of the pool and the lounge chairs, correct?
Yes,
And the
right here.
windows, that's not going to be inside.
Correct,
obviously.
that's a reflection.
Okay.
The applicant can provide some clarity on, the amenities located inside the building. There is proposed screening here. There's 17 14-foot to 16-foot green arborvitae, as well as 6 18-foot Norway spruces for that rear property line. And then also seen here is an existing hedge as well to help screen the proposed building.
So the sport court really is in a house-like situation. We've refused other sport courts because of sound and all of that, which is an issue. So now we're requiring a house-type facility to be over the sport court.
I don't think the intent, I think there's partially an intent for it to be, used for the sport court, but I think also the small pool area might be the main point for it. But I would defer to the applicant, kind of talk about the relationship between the pool, the sport court, and the proposed pool house. So that concludes our presentation. I can turn it over to Leah for HRC's point of view. Happy to answer any questions. No? Good.
Similar to the first item tonight, our review focuses on drainage improvements with the proposed structure that they're providing. So again, similar to the other one, they are proposing a leaching basin in the rear of the lot. Since this did come before for the sports court and other items, there is a full drainage improvements that have been completed along the rear lot. So there is a swale proposed along the rear, as well as various leaching basins. But if we do focus mainly on the area that we're talking about today, which is the proposed cabana, they are proposing an additional leaching basin in this area. Very similar to the one we talked about earlier today, an area where water can collect, go back into the ground before leaving the site. So very, very similar to the other project, but specifically related to the proposed cabana are the drainage improvements highlighted here. That's what I have.
Where's the closest house? When you look at it from the back on another street, there are so many trees there, you really can't see the back of the property. So how large is the back of the property where the house is?
So
Do you know what the acreage is?
this is helpful. This is Eric's aerial image. The bold is the property in question with the cabana proposed in this area back here, the property line here. I think we have this image too, which is a little harder to see with the green over it.
So there are already a lot of trees on the other side of what they're building. Is that correct?
Are you in the back of the home?
Yeah.
You kind of see a line of trees there. Is that what you're referring to?
Well, I was trying to see how much protection there is in this pool and sport court from.
Well, they're proposing
what's in
adding,
the back of it.
some as well.
Yeah, maybe this is helpful, the landscaping plan that shows specifically related to the cabana area here. And the landscape,
And the
additional
18-foot
landscape.
spruces in the corner.
So is everything already in except for this proposed pool house?
Yes.
So where's the current pool equipment?
Current pool equipment is outside in this area right here,
Okay, so, but it's all going underneath.
as well as air conditioners and all that, generator.
For the main house?
So how is that made safe? You have,
Present it.
Yes, please. Ready?
Thanks for having me a third time at Mosier Design Landscape Architecture. I'm here with Charlie Dadekoff from Skill Form Architects, does a lot in the city as well. and him and his firm have helped design the overall building. To give you guys some brief context of what this building is for, I have the homeowner, Mark Schechter, here as well. This building is both a pool house situation, so basically creating a courtyard around their small existing pool and a nice space for entertaining. And then Mark is really wanting to have an exercise room, so the back half is a enclosed exercise room. A little bit of back history on this project. We were actually before you guys for the, it's actually a padel court, which is a fun sport, a little different than pickleball and things like that, and he's been playing a lot. But we were before you with that, and we fortunately, you guys agreed with us, and today it's constructed, and I think it looks very nice and it's well screened, and Mark is enjoying it with his friends and neighbors. So this is sort of the last component. The reason we're coming to this last is because actually, last time we were here, we had the exercise structure on the other side of the house. And it was going to encroach into the rear yard setback. We did have all of our neighbors approve that structure, but we decided to table it and rethink the situation after meeting with city staff and do things that would be in compliance with the setback. Okay, so about this property, 420 Dunstan is a 66,815 square foot estate in the A3 district. As we said, we're proposing a detached pool / exercise room house, and basically a structure that would be accustomed to the size you might find on other properties that have these. The two features of this site that are important to understand is the buildable area for the pool house is constrained by the irregular shaped pilot building envelope, which we can see the red line, and not a standard rectangular property envelope. Second, the grades on the property fall off significantly to the east, which is over by the padel court, which means that pushing the structure eastward would encroach on the city's 2-foot cut and fill ordinance. And with those two conditions together, the lot geometry and the topography is why we're proposing what we are tonight. So the first variance, which is the distance from the primary house, as you guys know, in the city, which is a bit unique to Bloomfield Hills, is structures have to be at least 20 feet from the primary residence. Most municipalities are about 10. I'm not really sure the spirit of that ordinance, but it is a little different than what we usually see. So what we're proposing is 12 feet, which is an 8-foot encroachment. And we believe the reason is straightforward. The pie-shaped building envelope and the grade drop to the east leave us a narrow window of viable placement, and therefore moving it closer to the main house makes the most sense. We also believe it benefits the neighbors. Moving the pool house closer to the main building means it's further away from the neighboring property, especially to the east. The 8-foot encroachment on the separation standard produces a net benefit to adjacent owners. It's the most neighbor-friendly outcome, we feel, not a detriment. No one is negatively impacted by the placement. In fact, we believe the opposite is true. It's not self-created because the pie-shaped lot and the eastward grade change are existing conditions of this property. The applicant did not create them. We are citing this building to work within the land's physical constraints and its setbacks. And the result is a placement that keeps the structure further from the neighbors than strict compliance would have produced. The 8-foot relief we're asking for is the minimum the site geometry demands. Variance 2, which is the size of the structure, this is a variance that I'd ask you guys to look and understand most carefully. The number can look a bit larger than what reality warrants. The above-grade pool house, which is the structure you can actually see, is well within the allowable square footage. The overage exists entirely because the ordinance requires the below-grade, which is the basement, to be counted as the total square footage. So basically, the basement plus the main floor put us well over, but in reality, the area that you can't see, if we just had the main floor, we're actually under, okay? Why do we need the basement? The below-grade level houses the pool equipment, the generator, seasonal storage for outdoor furniture, a wide staircase to access these items. These are not luxury additions, they're functional infrastructure that a property of this size is used to. The deliberate choice to place the equipment underground rather than on the surface actually, we feel, is a more responsible design decision. It eliminates visual clutter, it eliminates surface noise, and benefits the neighboring properties by keeping all the infrastructure completely out of sight and out of earshot. There's zero above ground impact, we feel. The basement is completely invisible from every neighboring property and from the street. It produces no impact on light, air, views, or character of the residential area. The above grade pool house complies with the height, setbacks, screening requirements, and location requirements besides being closer to the primary structure. And therefore, it's a fully conforming one-story accessory structure. It would be inequitable to penalize a design choice that actively reduces surface impact, in our opinion. And to finish, I'll answer your guys' questions or comment about mechanicals in a basement. Charlie can speak to this even more than me, but it's quite common now to locate pool equipment, generators, things like that in a basement. They are vented with proper venting, which has to meet building standards and codes. So it's actually something that people are doing quite a bit of now, that they have good ways of doing this, and of course, nice to get those unsightly and noisy things off the property. Charlie, do you have anything you want to add?
No, I don't. Just to elaborate on your point of the question of the overall square footage. So it is divided evenly between the main level and the lower level. And part of that also, as we started to look at a lower level area for mechanical space for housing pool equipment, things like that, it was decided that the least disruption to the site in terms of constructability is to just sort of take the whole footprint and go down with it, as opposed to incorporating additional steps in site retaining and drainage and things like that. It sort of helps from that standpoint as well. But there is, as Matt was alluding to, roughly, I believe it's about 1,500 square feet net on the main level, 1,500 below. So the overall building footprint as well within that 1,981 square feet that Ian presented was the allowable based on the ordinance formula.
You talk about venting it. What do you mean by venting it?
So just like you'd vent a furnace, there is a pipe that comes out that's sealed, and it pokes out the side of the building. It's called a V-vent. So it doesn't actually go out through the ceiling. It goes out through the side, and it's just one of those little covers you see on the side of a house sometimes. So that's how they do it.
Where's the actual 12 feet, where it's near the home?
It's from, let's see if I can get this.
Because I see there's maybe.
It's this corner here to right here.
Okay, that's what I
So
thought.
originally, just so you guys know, we had this corner filled in, and we talked to the owner about just eliminating that, which is more in keeping with the spirit of the ordinance.
That opens it up nicely.
Right.
Yeah. Mhm. Okay. And that's like a hedge there? along
Yeah, so
the-
the renderings, we didn't do the renderings, they just placeholdered. The hedge is gonna be an established height hedge, meaning that it will block the building on day one.
And yes, I think, are you referring to this?
Yeah, I think
dotted
she's talking
down
about the
here?
hedge.
Yes, yes, and then so this, you can kind of see the stone pattern connects through here to the existing driveway.
Yep, yep.
And so that's why we've kind of cut back this corner in order to allow for direct access
Yeah,
to this
nice
structure
flow.
and to the existing home. but that still puts us slightly within that required 20 feet.
Thank you.
What is the acreage of the property?
Well,
know it's-
you have the site plan?
Yeah.
So what's 66,800 square feet?
Yeah, I believe it's
1.5.
acre.
And we're within the lot coverage allowances too. We did not exceed those.
Yes, yeah, we're not asking any relief to landscape open space or anything of that nature.
Does anybody have any other questions? I just had a question about, were you involved with the padel court and the Hudson Trails for that?
Yeah.
How deep were those?
We got a small variance on the far corner that you can't see. I think Leah might have it, but I think it was like 4 feet in a really small area, and the rest was like, it was very minimal.
Okay. So just some things to consider here. The padel court is kind of boxing in this structure, so there's really no way that the structure could move out along the line. And so you're just kind of, so when we talk about things that are self-created, the padel court, boxes the structure in, so you can't move it out any further. So you're kind of stuck putting it there. And there's the two things going on. We've got one that's, it's not within the 20 feet, or it's not, at 20 feet away from the building, and I don't think the square footage aspect is really a fair assessment here because it's the basement.
Right.
I'm not sure why we count the basement space in this analysis, but,
I mean, my understanding is that the intent for that is if we were presenting it as habitable space, so if we were, saying
Right.
that there was going to be additional amenities down there, it would have to count towards finished square footage, but in this case, what we're presenting is it's really purely functional and also to eliminate visual and noise clutter from the ground
right,
level.
no, I think it's a great design. You could apply that to an attic of a structure as well. I mean, why would you not count the, we don't, so
Right.
why are we counting the basement in this necessarily?
Right.
So there's that, so that's my only little bit of heartburn, is that it's a little bit self-created because you're boxing yourself in, and I've noticed that you've completely maxed out the open space. So you couldn't go any larger on this anyway, so.
We could if we, one of the things we did and are doing is eliminate a driveway, so we can eliminate paving, which allows us to make a structure bigger, right? But basically, we went through with Mr. Schechter here and designed a footprint that we felt was reasonable and navigated around furniture and things like that. And I want to make it clear that there was no intention of putting this here when we were here for the padel court. Like I said, we actually had two things on your agenda that night. One was the padel and one was the exercise room on the other end of the house. After that meeting, about a week later, Mr. Schechter said, Matt, what if we did something here? And so we got these guys involved. So I want to let you guys know, because sometimes I think people may come in and they get this approved and come back for this. It was never our intention. We never even thought of this until well after that approval. But yeah, listen, we can go bigger if we just eliminate literally surface, because in Bloomfield Hills, you guys count every surface as coverage instead of house and hardscape different. So it's just a matter of altering hard space to get size.
Did you look at an option where you were actually meeting a structure that would be small enough to at least meet the 20-foot requirement, or less than what you
They
have?
did, but then what it did is it pulled back the structure so you couldn't get a typical like living space and a little sit-up area. So because nobody's gonna see this from any property, having it so that it's totally functional and for house resale and any of those things that matter, like we wanted to make sure, and Charlie could speak more to it, but that the proportionality was appropriate for the lot, the furnishings, I don't think there's anything in there personally that's overboard, right? I mean, it's a seating area, a little bar area, little bathroom and an exercise room. And then enough room, of course, we have to have enough room for tread width to get down into the basement. So in my opinion, and I'm kind of talking for Charlie because they designed it, it's not an overly reaching request, in my opinion.
Yeah, and to your point, part of it is, as Matt alluded to, the unique kind of pie-shaped nature of this area. So 20 feet from this corner of the home, I don't know exactly, but I'm guessing, it brings it roughly out to here.
Yeah, I think it hits that inner corner.
Yeah, so what it does is it really kind of reduces the space from the setback here to the 20-foot line from the existing home, which we did study, and what it does is, architecturally speaking, which that's not the strongest reason to approve it, would throw off the balance of the structure being centered on the pool, but more importantly than that, from a functional standpoint, it reduced this space here, which is intended to be more of an entertaining space connection to the pool, by a significant amount that it was very, very difficult, if not impossible, to get a full seating area in there that would be comfortable and functional directly off of that existing pool space.
Might be also helpful for you guys to know that my neighbor on this side is on Markel, and that, like our first scenic oaks situation, is about 25 feet below grade. So I'm looking over their roof. They're not seeing, they can't see this. My neighbor to the north here actually prefers that this be moved further this way. They prefer the variance and have provided a letter of support in that as well. I don't think any other neighbor can anywhere near seeking this well.
Thank you for that. I think that we just have to keep in mind, in some ways it doesn't really matter what the neighbors can see or can't see. It comes down to the dimensions, and is there a way to make this meet the requirement? And I'm seeing a lot of restrictions here, so I'm just saying that it's not about what the neighbors can see or can't see. It's about how much does this violate the ordinance, and is there any other option? And I agree that this looks like a reasonable living space for this structure. There's really nowhere else to put it. They've made a good attempt to keep it at the setback line, and I don't view the basement as part of the square footage. It's not that. It's actually about 500 square feet, or 450 or something like that, less than what's the max. So those are my thoughts on it. Do we have any other? Anybody from?
Can I add one little thing?
Sure.
Is that okay? So I think, again, I always look at what's the spirit of the ordinance. So in my opinion, the spirit of the ordinance, when you say 20 feet from the house, is to prevent people from creating additions to their house that could be attached and get around the different algebraic setbacks and things like that. So to me, the spirit of the ordinance is not, get a structure as far away as possible so it's closer to your neighbors. It's, from what I understand and how I read it, it's more of creating enough separation to where it truly is an accessory structure by ordinance, and not necessarily all about trying to have it further away from the house. So I just wanted to add that comment.
I think it's a fire consideration.
Maybe a fire
as well.
too, right? Yeah.
Okay, we had somebody from the.
I'm the other neighbor.
Okay.
On the other side, I think this is just fine. I want to come tonight not to object, just to see it with my own eyes. And considering there's a basement that covers all the equipment, and that the top structure fits in regardless of where, to the size ordinance, I think, right?
Correct, yep.
Then this is dandy, as far as I'm concerned.
Thank you. You look very familiar. You look familiar, but can you identify yourself for the record?
Extremely familiar, yes. I've been here, our houses, with my happens on the other side.
Okay,
We had a similar issue with underground and
that's right.
these type of things. I think he did a great job, actually.
Okay. You got that, Amy?
I do.
Okay.
Thank you.
Any other? Okay, do I have a motion?
Sure.
Ready to do another one?
Sure, I'll do it. I move to approve variances from section 24-229A3 to allow a 16-foot separation of an accessory structure from the main building in lieu of the required 20-foot separation, and a variance from 24-229A4 to allow a pool house accessory structure to exceed the square footage requirements for an accessory structure.
I just want to interrupt you, I'm sorry. Is it 16 or 12?
It's 12. How it was written in, I'm sorry. That
let's
was
change
my
it to
mistake.
12.
It's 12.
I just want to make sure we get that correct for the record.
I apologize.
12 it is.
Okay, sorry, please proceed.
For an accessory structure by 1,055 square feet, the applicant has demonstrated practical difficulty for the following reasons. 1, strict compliance with the requirements would unreasonably prevent or severely limit the owner from improving the property. This home sits significantly farther back on the lot than neighboring properties, and thus the amount of usable rear yard space is significantly reduced. 2, the requested variances would do substantial justice to the property owner as well as the other property owners. HRC found that the construction will have no adverse drainage impacts on the property or on surrounding properties. 3, the plight of the property owner is due to the uniqueness of the property. The far back placement of the main structure and atypical setback geometry of the rear yard renders it difficult for the property owner to site an accessory structure in a suitable, reasonable location. 4, the proponent's problem is not self-created. The placement of the main structure and configuration of the rear yard setbacks are inherent to the property and not within the control of the property owner. 5, the granting of the variances will not adversely affect the purposes or objectives of the master plan. The purpose of the master plan in residential areas is to allow homeowners the opportunity to improve the property while minimizing impact on the neighbors.
Thank you. Do I have a second?
Second.
All in favor, say aye. Aye. Any opposed?
Thank you guys so much, appreciate it very much.
We have one more? One more. All right, the board will consider the request from the property owner at 355 Martell Drive for an increase in the landscape open space on an existing non-conforming lot, a setback variance for a rear yard pool, and a variance to allow mechanical and pool equipment in the side yard to be located more than 20 feet from the principal building.
Yep, so we have 355 Martell Drive for the pool setbacks, pool equipment setbacks, and then an open space variance. So here the variances are laid out here. So the first one is a 40-foot, the required is a 40-foot rear yard setback. The applicant is proposing to put the pool at, encroach into the required rear yard by 19.6 feet into the required setback. And the next one is to not meet the 75% landscape open space. They are proposing 70.18%. Next, they are adding additional impervious coverage on a non-conforming lot. They are adding 549 square feet of additional impervious coverage. And then lastly, to allow for pool equipment to be located farther than 5 feet from the main building, as well as being located in the required side yard. So the site is zoned A3, and just some key site characteristics. The site does not meet the minimum lot area for the A3 district, which is 1 acre. They're currently at 0.91 acres, so they already have limited space to build with by not meeting the minimum lot size. Secondly, the existing home itself, seen here, encroaches into that 40-foot rear yard setback. The home is located at 39.4 feet. So anything they would propose, similar to kind of the Scenic Oaks proposal earlier would most likely end up in that required rear yard. And then another key site characteristic is from Martell Drive. The home is located 80 feet from the front yard property line. 45 feet is typically required, so it kind of just goes to show how far setback it is from Martell, which then obviously leads into you encroaching into your required rear yard. So here is the first variance request. So it's to allow the pool to encroach 19.6 feet into the 40-foot rear yard setback. They're setback 20.4 feet from that rear yard property line, which you can see here. The pool is shown in red. And then here, this green dimension shows you that existing home setback, which is an existing nonconformity. The next two variance requests deal with the open space. So again, it's to allow for the open space to be at 70.18%. They're currently at, prior to the pool and other additions and improvements, they're at 71.56%, so that's an existing nonconformity. So by adding that additional coverage, they're increasing the amount of coverage on a nonconforming lot to begin with, which doesn't comply and requires a ZBA variance as well. And then lastly, we have to allow the pool equipment to be located in the required side yard, as well as to be more than 5 feet from the main building. The pool equipment is proposed to be 22.6 feet from the main building, and it's also located in that required side yard. So both of those items require ZBA approval, which you can see here. So on the right here is the existing home and garage. So that dimension, again, is 22.6 feet to be located away from the main building. And then this purple line represents the required side yard setback of 26 feet. So the pool equipment encroaches, is located 16 feet from that side yard property line. So an encroachment of 10 feet into the required side yard. I believe there is some existing, applicant can confirm this, but there's some existing mechanical equipment located at where that pool equipment is proposed. So the next couple slides will just show the existing screening and kind of the general rear yard. So down below is kind of this brick where the plywood and brick is located. That's where the pool will be located at. So you're looking out into the yard. Next we have that kind of existing mechanical screening. So shown here in red, located looking towards Martell Drive from the south, and then just a closer view of that mechanical screening area as well. So that concludes our portion of the presentation. I'd be happy to answer any questions. Otherwise, we can turn it over to HRC.
Do we have any history on the open space on this property?
We might. I don't know if they've received a variance before.
I can quickly look while you're talking.
Yeah,
about other
Amy
things.
can check that.
I'm just wondering if it was ever within compliance from day one.
Sure. Yeah, it could be difficult because the site is an existing non-conforming lot area-wise, so they're already kind of restricted to begin with. You know, they're missing 0.1 acre, which is a good chunk of that potential open space.
For this assessment, I was trying to be, again, creating an equivalent situation and dividing by the acre instead of the actual 0.91 acres to see if they would somehow still be in compliance.
Sure.
No matter how I tried to make this work, I couldn't get anything near
Yeah.
the required open space.
Okay. Yeah. We did not do that, but that's good. That's good context for sure. That the site itself is already, no matter and they're not adding that. They're not adding 1,000 square feet or 2,000 square feet. It's quite minimal with it, being restricted to 550 square feet.
Right. And the point was not to penalize them for
Sure.
having a non-conforming small lot. It should be at least an acre, so that use the acre as the divisor for everything, and still it was well out of
Compliance.
Yeah.
Gotcha. Okay. Any other questions or comments? No?
Right, thank you.
Yep.
Okay, so again, just to point to the drainage, improvements, given the small area where the pool is. They again are proposing a leaching basin towards the rear of the lot, where the water flows to, and they have a detail of that shown. So just looking at the added impervious area, just in that small section, HRC does feel that the leaching basin is sufficient to accommodate the additional runoff.
You said something previously that you rely on the applicants for the calculations. Do you ever cross-check these?
We do.
Or, okay. We're seeing a lot of swales and a lot of leaching basins.
Yeah. It's a pretty common form of
As long as they work.
stormwater management, yeah.
I mean, swales, you know, if those basins get clogged, all they're doing is they're just flowing the water somewhere else.
We always require swales around any home, so that water isn't pooling, so that's always been a requirement. And
What's going to the neighbors is where it's going.
well, they are required to have a swale between themselves and the neighbors, so it's not directly sheeting onto neighbor property, so there is an area to catch.
What's in back of that property?
Very zoomed out, maybe we can go back to Ian's.
So there's some existing screening and then their backyards and pools about the subject side,
What's that existing thing on the far left? Is it a
I believe
pond
that's
or a pool?
pond. I think that's a koi pond.
Okay.
So the pool equipment would go on the right side of the property, or the pool.
Mr. Chairman, sorry to interrupt. The board had asked if there had ever been a previous variance on this property. There was. In 2020, there was a request to redo the, essentially the walkway and patio on the back of the property. At that time, it still was existing non-conforming at the same percentage that it is now. That request would have reduced the landscape open space to 69.6 as proposed. And the board at that time denied that variance request. I will say in 2020, it was already existing non-conforming. It was existing non-conforming at the percentage it currently is. And I believe that given the size of this lot, which is non-conforming, it has existed in its existing non-conforming state for quite some time. So, to the extent that answers your question.
Thank you. I guess I'll wait for the applicant, but I'm curious about the driveway, if that has ever been redone, or if that's the original footprint of the driveway.
Good afternoon. Alan Izember, Noack and Frouse Engineers. We're the civil engineer on this. Regarding the driveway, I believe that is the original driveway layout. We weren't involved in the original house design, but we have not, at least our current owner has not made any changes to that driveway since they've purchased the property.
How old is the house? Do you know?
probably 70 years old.
70? Okay. So late 50s.
So the pool will go just close to the patio.
Yeah, basically the pool would go, where's the laser? The pool would take over this portion of the patio. So if we go back to the site plan, there's an existing wall series that goes in right here. There's actually two retaining walls with some landscaping, like kind of creating a shelf that you can see in kind of the back side of this photo here on the right. There's like two shelf retaining walls with some landscaping. So the intent is that pool replaces that hardscape from the patio. It actually, technically it extends 2 feet further than the existing wall, closer to that property line. But that's just to get the new wall in for the pool. So at this corner right here, there's an extension of 2 additional feet. But once you get the pool coping in and everything, it's basically to reestablish that retaining wall for the grade.
So that was an existing hardscape to begin with?
Correct. That's the patio that we were discussing for the previous variance.
Okay, and the pool's just a bit longer than what was existing?
Correct. It sticks out an additional 2 feet just at that southeastern corner. And there's a couple additional things to point out regarding that setback there. So the neighbors, there's actually, you can't see it on these plans because they're so zoomed in, but the neighbors, when we were looking at the overall aerial, this site to the southeast here, their pool actually sits at, their pool patio actually sits at 11.3 feet from that rear property line. And then the pool itself sits at 17 and a half. So we are set back a little further from them. I believe one of the letters that was written and submitted was from that neighbor saying that we are okay to do that pool on our site. They're in favor of us going forward with that. There's actually 2 owner letters submitted, so. And then the site directly south of us.
One of the owner letters, the owners text me, Catherine Augier, she was a board member here, she just resigned from the board. She said she emailed you and it bounced back to Amy.
Yeah, I did not receive it.
Yeah, and she says I can use her name, and she is for the and she was a recent board member.
Okay, thank you. Can you identify yourself for Amy? So.
Yeah, I'm Jessica Stencil. I represented the homeowner in the purchase of this property a few months ago.
Okay, thank you.
Yeah, and as we can see, the site to the south, direct south, there's nothing right up against that, and the southwest is further set back. So we believe with that screening that exists along that rear property line, that there's no adverse effect to adding that pool in the location of that existing patio. That staircase that heads down there on the east is going to stay and basically be the west side of the pool. And then as mentioned by city staff, there are a couple reasons why this gets a little goofy in here. We know that that setback of 40 feet, that existing house is built actually technically past the existing setback, leaving no rear yard for us to fit that pool in. They could have moved the house 35 feet closer to Martell when it was originally built, which would have allowed for something to go in the back here for this pool, and actually a little bit of a resized and shaped patio to get a bigger area directly behind the house. That's why you get kind of the long, narrow patio and brick pathway along the back. And then regarding the open space, I wanted to make one clarification on that. The presentation mentioned 500 or so square feet increase. That originally included a pool house that we were going to be adding. After city staff discussions, we took that pool house off. So it's actually only an increase of 282 square feet, which is 0.6% of the total area of the lot.
Yeah, that was a big question because if it's really just the pool replacing existing hardscape and maybe just a slight bit more, I was trying to figure out where was all this coming from.
Yeah, and that's why I wanted to make that clarification. Yeah, so basically the only area that's being replaced is those 2 landscape shelves are now going to have the pool in its place, which is a total of 282 square feet.
Well, given that it's such a small amount, it would be nice if you could just keep it at the existing nonconformity so that we don't set a precedent of continually adding on to existing nonconformities.
Yeah, so we did look at that, and that's why this 7.4 foot dimension is shown off the back of the house. So typically, there's no official code for it, but typically they want the state, when they have their pool code, wants 10 feet off of a house. Apparently, it's something about people jumping off roofs into a pool. But knowing that we were encroaching in this setback, we tried to limit that and make this, 7.5 to keep that there. So that would have to push to about 5 feet, which really narrows that brick walk. And there's an existing landscaping up against the back of that house right now.
One of the things I observed is the driveway is almost as much square footage as the home itself.
Yeah.
And it seems like there are opportunities here to stay within the existing nonconformity. You're very close.
Yeah, I would let the owner speak to that. Do you feel like you could lose 250, 282 square feet out of the driveway?
I know it sounds, but it's, again, this is.
Can I show you a better picture of this? Might make a little more sense. So this is what's there today. This is where the landscape coverage is right now. And all we're doing is changing that to that. So and the driveway, I just don't know where you take it from. I mean, it is what it is. I mean, if you took it off the side, you wouldn't be able to turn it into the garage. It's a 4-car garage. You can't take it off the top, or you wouldn't be able to get into the 4-car garage. I wouldn't be opposed to it, but I don't know where you take it from.
Mm-hmm. Okay. Thank you.
And the Brothers Speak, they,
Can I see that picture?
yeah, they recently purchased this home,
And this is the existing.
in like last December. And so
Yes,
it's not as
So the
if
pool
they,
will go with the patio.
did anything with the driveway, and in fact, we even had to have professional plumbing come out and take a look at the plumbing, and they gave an estimate to, of possibly doing something with the driveway, and it was within the,
70 years ago.
six-figure number. To do
Okay.
anything with the driveway, because it's like all actually certain pavers, it's not even asphalt, they're individual stone pavers.
Okay. Any other questions for the?
I just think it's an unusual lot.
I do too, yeah.
With, kind of faced with some difficulties there.
I like the idea that it's just replacing something that was there already.
What would you get back if you removed the koi pond?
That's a good question.
Is that even considered in the impervious?
If you can't do the driveway, what's left?
I don't know what you're gonna do with all the expensive fish.
It's not considered impervious.
No?
It's kind of a decorative element to the site.
All right.
And we've approved having the equipment on the right side of the house with proper landscaping.
The equipment that's there right now, it is an existing mechanical lot. There's two air conditioners there, there's a generator there. The equipment for the pond is there. It is the most reasonable place to put the pool
Yeah.
equipment.
Yeah, and that's why we showed that existing screening there, so you can see there's
And it's really
two
not
ACs,
22
a
feet away.
generator.
What we're proposing to put it is closer to, I would say 12 feet.
I think actually, getting the final pool equipment sizing, I think it'll actually fit in behind these AC units, so it'll be less than that 22.6.
So again, sorry to beat a horse dead here, but I know it's just 200, what is it, 286?
282.
282. Where is it? Where is the 282?
Yeah.
If we're just replacing something that was already there, where is the 282?
It is in these, I'm gonna actually walk up to the screen. This might be a little easier. So kind of in the lighter gray, you can see this existing wall came here, did this, and then there was a second one that did this here. So this area was a landscape shelf, and then this area was also a landscape shelf. Now those two areas and this additional 2 feet added to 282.
Okay, so previously those strips were pervious.
Yeah, they were shrubs.
Okay. Okay. One of the issues that we have here is we don't actually have the right numbers in the documentation. So if there's any motion made, we'll have to make sure that we clarify what the actual reduction in open space is. Do we have any other further comments? Anybody from the audience? Anybody feel like a motion? How about you, Sylvia?
I will make a motion, yeah. Where do I read? You have me.
That's it.
Okay, do we need to vote first?
Just need to make the motion and then,
Okay. I move to approve variances from section 24-196 to allow a 20.4 setback in lieu of the ordinance required 40 feet rear yard setback to allow a pool. A variance, section 24-196 to allow 70.18%.
this is where we need to clarify.
What's it supposed to be?
Attorney's gone.
It's a different percentage now, but maybe just reference that it's based on.
Yeah, if you could reference it to the plan set, that would be awesome. But
Okay, okay, so that should be modified. The 70.18% will be modified. Landscaped open space in lieu of the ordinance required, 75% landscaped open space, and a variance from section 24 to 28 to allow 549 square feet of additional impervious surface coverage on an already non-conforming lot.
That number's gotta change as
That
well,
will
right?
also
Five 549 needs to change.
yes, it would be the
Revised lower number,
282.
282.
282. We don't have the change from 70.18 yet.
Not yet.
Of additional impervious surface coverage on an already non-conforming lot and a variance from 24-229 B11 to allow pool equipment to be placed 22.6 from the main structure. And then it says strict compliance with the requirements would unreasonably prevent or severely limit the owner from improving the property. This lot is already a pre-existing non-conforming lot and structure and was built on the rear setback line. Any improvement the homeowner could make on the existing structure and accessory structures would necessarily violate the ordinance. The configuration also limits where the homeowner can site improvements. The requested variance would do substantial justice to the property owner as well as other property owners. The requested improvements are in line with improvements typically permitted for other similar homes. The city has received at least one letter of support from a neighbor for the proposed pool installation. Further, HRC found that upstream drainage will not be restricted and that the proposed work does not impact any public utilities. The plight of the property owner is due to the uniqueness of the property. This property is a pre-existing, non-conforming structure and thus is already non-compliant with the city's ordinances. The homeowners have done their best to site a pool and the associated pool equipment in the appropriate rear yard. A clean slate would require the dismantling of the existing structure and moving said structure north, which is unreasonable. The proponent's problem is not self-created. The placement of the main structure and configuration of the rear yard setbacks are inherent to the property and not within the control of the property owner. The granting of the variances will not adversely affect the purpose or objectives of the master plan. The purpose of the master plan in residential areas is to allow homeowners the opportunity to improve the property while minimizing impact on the neighbors.
Do I have a second?
Second.
All in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Aye. Any opposed?
Thank you.
See, do we need something so that this can be changed?
Yeah, this needs to be changed.
What a storm.
You don't need glasses to read that?
Use it, but
That's pretty good.
I didn't bring it.
That was pretty bad.
Oh, I think the longest meeting in a couple of years.
Okay.
This is short.
Yeah, I was gonna say, from what you,
Yeah, I mean, this is great.
yeah. So walk in the park.
Yeah.
That's a wrap.
Meeting adjourned. Do I have a motion to adjourn?
I motion that, Mr. Chairman, that you adjourn the meeting immediately.
Do I have a second? Meeting adjourned.